العربية. This video is about spooking. When the horse is afraid of something in leading or in riding, when he wants to run away or bolt away from a spooky thing, how can you deal with him in that situation? How can you control him? Now, horses in their nature, as I said before, react then think, act then think, especially when they are afraid or when they are confused. It's the complete opposite of what people do. People think, then react or act, especially when they are afraid or when they are confused. So horses in their nature fear anything new to them, and their way of defending themselves when they are afraid is running away or bolting away. In his mind, in his language, in his nature, he believes that anything new is harmful, is dangerous, so it's going to hurt him, and to protect himself from it, he just runs away. That's his nature. Now, when you ride him or lead him or control him, you want him to do what you do in your nature, which is thinking before acting. You want to convince him that the spooky thing he's afraid of is actually not harmful, it's not dangerous, it's not going to hurt him. If it's not painful, that means the reason for running away from it or of it is gone, so why should you run away? So this is, as I said before, in leading and in riding, horses react then think. So he will try to run away or bolt when you lead him or ride him and he sees something for the first time, a car, a bicycle, a motorcycle, a camel, a cow, a bull, or whatever, something new to him. Regardless of what is it, he will try to bolt with me, with you, with anyone, in leading or in riding. When he tries to bolt, two things should happen if you want to control the horse. The first thing is to let him know that the spooky thing is not spooky anymore. How? It's not painful. It's not dangerous. He believes it's spooky because he believes it is painful. If you can convince the horse it's not painful, he will not run away. The second reason, or the second thing you have to do, which is the most important thing, is letting him know that when he tried to bolt, your hand reaction was correct. You did not try to stop him in the wrong way by using strength, which means he will not connect between the way of riding you used or the wrong or bad way of riding you used to control him and the spooky thing itself. So he must know that the spooky thing itself is not painful. I am not painful. Why should you run away? Why should you be afraid? The first option is done by all of us. Usually the scary or spooky thing he's afraid of is not going to hurt him. The trailer is not going to hurt him, the starting gate is not going to hurt him, the brush is not going to hurt him, the water is not going to hurt him, the cow, the camel, the car, and so on. But the second option is going to be different from one rider to another. Most bad riders will deal with him in the wrong way by using strength and trying to make him move to the spooky or scary thing by using strength. So he will connect between the wrong thing you did and the spooky thing itself. So instead of becoming better with time, he becomes worse. Not just stays the same, he will become worse and fear it more because he believes it hurt him. Okay, it did not hurt him as a thing or an object, but you hurt him when he was afraid of it. And the proof to that, which is a visual proof that you can see with your own eyes, a horse, for example, who has a problem or bad, let's say, experience with dogs. When you lead him or ride him around dogs, he runs away and bucks and bolts. The same exact horse in front of the same exact dogs will play with them and even attack them if you are not leading him or riding him. So it's not the dogs. It's about you on top of his back when he sees the dogs. It's about you leading him next to him on the ground when he sees the dogs. Because when he's alone, he knows that if something happens, he can defend himself by fighting or, of course, by running away. But when you are on top of him and you want to stop him from running away in a wrong way, you want to stop him from running away by doing something wrong, he connects between what you did and the spooky thing, so he fears it because of you, not because of it. So these are the two main things that you have to do. It is not painful. I was not painful in my hand reaction or body language or body reaction, so why should you be afraid? So here are the steps that you should do, in my opinion, when the horse spooks from something. And of course, how you do it is more important than just doing it. The steps I'm going to say are steps that you should do, but if you do them by using strength, it's not going to work. If someone does the same exact steps with better hand accuracy, he's going to get a better result, even though it's the same steps, but you used strength to do the steps, so the horse got worse. He used hand accuracy to get the steps, so he got a better result. When I say hand accuracy, what does that mean? It means you're not using strength, but again, you're not just letting go of the rein. You're not being too kind or soft more than you should, or kinder or softer more than you should, and you're not using strength. Hand accuracy means you are being with the horse. It's like holding an egg in your hands or holding something sensitive in your hand. If you let's say a pigeon or a bird. If you hold a bird in your fist, if your fist is too loose, it can fly away. And if it's too tight, you might kill it. It should be in the middle. This is what I mean with hand accuracy, and I already explained my way of riding or style of riding in a very clear way in my book, Riding Horses, Arabian Riding. The steps that you should do when you lead the horse and when you ride him. Of course, you should lead him usually before riding him. If it's a new horse, a horse you're starting, a horse you're breaking, a horse who's already been, let's say, started or broken, who was ridden before, but he's still in a bad way. The first thing you're going to do with a new horse, even if he was ridden before, is lead him first and do some exercises in leading and groundwork. Then you will ride him. So usually you will do the steps in leading, then riding. With all the types or different types of leading, because the way of leading can change from one way to another, which is the normal leading with the rope on the halter or on the nose, then the rope in the mouth, then the leading with the bit or the bridle, then the what I call side leading, the thing you do, or the leading, the kind or the type of leading you do when you break or start a horse, then riding. The first step is making the horse face the spooky thing instead of running away of it. As I said before, his nature is to run away from it or of it by moving his front body away from it and moving the hindquarters or the thighs or the back side of his body towards it. So if he cannot run away, he will kick while running away. This is his nature. What you want to do in this case is the complete opposite of that. You want him to stand still and face it. So the spooky thing is here. Instead of letting the horse do that, you want him to do this. So I want him to stop and face the spooky thing with both eyes. If he sees the spooky thing with one eye, just one eye, he keeps wanting to run away, because horses split between the two sides, and he must know that the spooky thing is not painful from both sides. That's why you should do everything you do in leading and riding from both sides, because horses split between the two sides physically and mentally. So if he sees the spooky thing with both eyes and he's facing it, you achieved the most important step, which is something he will do in his nature, but he doesn't do it immediately. He runs away half a mile, let's say, or a mile, then he stops and looks at the scary thing with both eyes. So he wants to look at the spooky thing with both eyes, but he doesn't want to do it immediately. He wants to run away first. In your case, you want him to do it first. The second option, when he sees it and decides to stand still in his place or stop in his place, because usually, even if he sees it, he will try to run away to the side, right or left. So you keep pointing his eyes and his forehead and head towards the spooky thing until he stands still in his place or stops in his place. The second step, is moving him towards the spooky thing with the sound and by changing his direction, and with you using your feet or legs a little bit if he needs that, until he reaches to the spooky thing. Take your time with that, depends on the horse. The third step is allowing him to smell it. Of course, smelling it means touching it with the nose, with the cheekbones, with the lips. He will touch it and smell it and get used to it. If you reach to that step, the third step, that means the most important thing is already achieved. You have achieved the most important thing, which is the hand accuracy was correct. That's why he was not able to bolt away. I made him face it instead of running away from it. I made him move towards it instead of moving away from it. I made him get used to it instead of just staying away from it or of it. Now, if it's something that you can go inside, like water, starting gates, trailers or whatever, you can start going inside it by changing the direction and using the sound and using the legs if you needed to, and give him his time until he touches it with the hands, the front hands, the hind legs, the body, the thigh, until he completely gets used to it and goes inside it. and controlling his speed and direction before, while, and after moving inside is more important than just going inside. A lot of horses will go inside, but they will bolt. Like he will go inside the water, the spooky thing, but he will bolt from the beginning until the end. From the moment or the second he got inside the water until he got out, he was bolting, he was bucking. You were not in control. You were not controlling the direction. You were not controlling the speed, which means not letting him go inside is actually better than making him go inside. The end does not justify the means in horsemanship. How you do it is more important than just doing it. Doing it without control over the speed and the direction is actually ruining the horse instead of fixing him. You want to stop him easily, move him back easily, and control the direction easily before, while, and after going inside the spooky thing. The fifth option after going inside it, or if it's something that you can't go inside, like for example a box, a car, a wall, a fence or whatever, you want him to stand next to it. So I already achieved the most important thing, which is looking at it with both eyes. So how about standing next to it without looking at it? So he's looking at the spooky thing with the left eye but not the right eye. Or even if he's trained in a very good way, I can make him move sideways towards it. So his nose or forehead is forward or right, and he's moving left towards it, which is what I call side walking or side moving. So he's not looking at the spooky thing, and he's moving towards it from the left side and the right side. So I want the spooky thing to your right and you're not looking at it directly, or the spooky thing to your left and you are not looking at it directly. Then I want you to move to the opposite side and leave the spooky thing behind you, but you're not bolting away or bucking away or forcing me to look at it. Some horses will try to buck or bolt, which is completely wrong, and some horses will say, okay, I gave you what you wanted, but I will not give it my back. Let me see it. In this case, you should say no. You already saw it. You already stood next to it. Now I want it to be behind you. He must trust me to that point. Then you should do what I call the ultimate achievement, which is side walking towards it and moving back at it. So he's not looking at the spooky thing with both eyes. He's looking to the opposite direction and he's moving back at it, which is something he will never do in his nature. Even the leading stallion or the leading mare will never make him do that. They will just run away with him when he spooks or when he's afraid of something. So when you make him move towards it without looking at it, by doing what I call side leading, or by moving him to the opposite side of it and moving back at it, this is the ultimate achievement in a real trust, desensitizing, real control, whatever you want to call it. Because he's going to the spooky thing that he wanted to bolt away of or from, without even looking at it, and he's doing it just for you, which means you prove to him it is not painful. My hand reaction was not painful when I was handling the situation, or when I was dealing with you when you spooked, or when you were afraid of the scary thing, or in that situation. So why should you run away? When the reason for spooking is gone, he will not be afraid, he will not spook. I said before, I don't want him to not spook. I don't want him to not be afraid. I want him to know that even when you are afraid and you have the right to be afraid, even when you spook and you have the right to spook, I will be able to control you. There's a big difference between controlling him while he's afraid or while he's spooked and just letting him get used to it. The first one means even when you are afraid, you did not bolt. Even when you are afraid or were afraid, you did not buck. You actually faced it because the correct hand reaction was able to control you. Making the horse just get used to it means when he's afraid or when he spooks from something, he bolts some bucks and maybe even buck you off his back. Then you make him get used to it, and when he knows that it's not actually a spooky thing, he will decide to stop and look at it. So the difference is very big, even though the final result is similar or close in both cases. Real control while he's afraid is my goal, is the achievement I want to achieve, and not just making the horse get used to it. The first one cannot be achieved unless you are a good rider with a correct, accurate hand reaction. The second option, or the second thing, can be achieved with anyone if they give themselves and give the horse enough time. That's my opinion about the steps you should do in leading and in riding when the horse spooks of something, when he's afraid of something. Yeah.